Welcome, everybody, to God's Views on Political News. It's so great to have you here today. I want you to know that I am flying solo today. Brandon, as you know, who is Bill's son, he's also our tech guy, and he couldn't be here today. He unexpectedly was called out of town. And so, hey, Jim, good to see you. So all of it is on me today. He has the ability to connect Bill and I from 3,000 miles away. Unfortunately, I don't have the equipment here to do that. So if anybody out there wants to volunteer for that type of equipment to donate to God's Views on Political News, let me know, because that would be great. Next time I would be able to have everything here. If Brandon's out of town, then I can make it a go and I can bring Bill on, which is, I tried to get a baseball cap today so I could you guys wouldn't feel so bad not having Bill here, but I couldn't find one. So I'm just going to go with what I have. So I'm seeing other people coming in. Alan, hey, Bethany, glad that you're here. Danielle, Mike, good to see you. Good to see everybody. Shalom, Bill, if you're watching. I hope Bill's watching, and I hope maybe Bill will have an opportunity to comment on that. So hopefully it is everybody can hear me on all the. Danielle is talking about an echo, but I don't know if anybody else is hearing that echo, if it's just Danielle. So let me know what you're seeing. Hey, Andra. Alan just volunteered to learn Brandon's job. Oh, great. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, Jamie, good morning, or good, I guess it's, later morning, afternoon for some of you on the East Coast and everywhere else. So glad that you're here today and that you could join us. Great. Everybody is fine on all channels. So we're on 5 different live streams right now. So stay with me. Hey, Nancy, good to see you. Motown, good to see you. Sound is good for Bethany. Glay, I don't hear it. so Glay doesn't hear. Some people hear an echo, some don't. Glay doesn't hear the echo, neither does Alan. So it may be Danielle just need to go out and come back in. Cindy, happy to be here. Susan, no echo. Wonderful. So we don't have an echo. We're on 5 streams. I'm going to try to look at every one of the comments and talk to you as I'm going. Please be patient with me because I'm going to have comments from 5 different ones. So, I want to start out first by talking about Gilroy and what happened there. Now, we talked about it sort of, right? Meaning the public kind of sort of talked about it. And now it seems to be gone. All of a sudden, we're not talking about it anymore. It's as though it didn't happen. And what I want to tell people is that I think it's extremely important for us to keep talking about it, because Gilroy is such a very, very small town. And if you're not safe in Gilroy with less than 50,000 people, you're really not safe very many places, I have to say. And one of the things, we hear so many different things. We're finding out that this was a 19-year-old. I'm guessing this 19-year-old had some major issues and needed some help that he didn't get. Some of the things that I'm finding out that he had I think it was on his Instagram, he was saying that he hated mestizos, which are mixed race individuals. He's also saying that he hates white people. He said that in a very uncomplimentary term that I can't repeat here. But he also, and this is not what we're hearing at all in the mainstream media, is that he had supposedly a grandfather who is Iranian that was a key figure in Shia Islam that he very much liked and put information out about that maternal grandfather. And Jules said it was stopped because the shooter was not a Trump supporter. You're safe in a non-gun free zone, Motown said. Senator said, from Oregon. Hi, Sandra. Good to see you. Robin said we never hear the truth in the mainstream media, and we don't. Danielle wanted to know why he was allowed a gun. And Danielle, I would say he was allowed a gun because he never did anything that we know of that broke the law up until the time that he went into this festival. Now, yes, he was Iranian and Italian descent, and we're not really hearing that either. I mean, because of the fact that he's Iranian American and the political PC world that we live in today, we can't talk about that. We're not going to talk about it. We're just going to go on as if, the next thing I think that we'll be hearing probably is that he is a white supremacist. Now, if he hated white people and called them these derogatory names, I'm not sure how he's a white supremacist. He's also, as you said, Iranian and Italian descent. That doesn't make you a white supremacist. And he's some other things that we were told about him is that he indicated to somebody, he called out and he said, somebody said, "Why are you doing this?" They shouted at him, "Why are you doing this?" And he said, basically, because I'm really angry. That's what is allegations of what this young man was saying. They also talked about a book that he liked to read, which was a book that I've never heard of, but it was something that they supposedly white supremacists read, and it was banned and everything else. Motown said that's the problem with these laws. A lot are young and have little history. Hey, and looks like Bill is on. It's Shorsham Ministries with Bill, so I hope that's Bill. I'm assuming it is. Hey, Debbie. Hey, Gary. So I think that, again, we would talk about a gun-free zone in California, but understand this. Hey, Scarlett, and we're not hearing a lot about this. There were police officers there. They search your bags when you go through. I've been to different events that they are put on. They open up your bag. They don't do a great search job. I will have to say they open up your bag to see if they can see anything. You don't go through a metal detector typically, and there was no indication that there was a metal detector here, which is bad. Which may be that we have to start doing that everywhere we go. However, it wouldn't have helped in the situation because from what we are learning, he actually cut a hole in the fence down by the stream or the creek and came in through that way. Danielle wanted to know where he got his hatred from. We need to know that. Did he get his hatred from his grandfather that he was so proud of? They cut a hole in the fence. That's right, Jim. He did. And then he came through. So I don't know if there's a second person or not. We don't know that. But we hopefully will find out. But we need to be finding out this type of information, knowing more about this 19-year-old that was so filled with hate that he would go into a festival. Now, this is a festival, too, that is basically something where you've got 30 to 100,000 people who come to this garlic festival each and every year. And it was the last day, and he went in and started shooting up people with what looks like some type of assault rifle. So, hey, Bobby, good to see you. So again, I think it's what's so shocking about it is, where families like to gather, where you think that you're safe, where in this little small town that nobody really knows about, except for the fact that it's the garlic capital of the world. And if you've ever gone through Gilroy, you can smell garlic. I mean, it just permeates the air there. And, it's frightening that, people automatically, Gavin Newsom comes out, blames the president. It's the president's fault. He starts cursing about things. What are we going to do? They undermine everything that we try to do, meaning the Democrats. Gavin Newsom is the governor of California. In case you don't know, we here painfully understand that's who he is. And it automatically goes to gun control. We all know that it is not a gun problem. It is a heart problem. It is the fact that so many have either never been taught about God, don't believe in God, or they are turning against God. It is a spiritual battle. We're told about this all the time. Danielle said he was from Gilroy. Yes, and he bought his gun in Nevada. That's one place I never went to when I was in California, Robin said. Robin, if you blink twice, you go through Gilroy. It's near San Jose. So it's like I said, a very small town of 50,000 people. Look at John Lott's work at the Crime Prevention Research Institute, Motown said. True Susan Danielle said, D class starts Wednesday. Yeah. How much are we going to know? Are they really going to tell us anything about him? Are we going to learn about, his background? And we need to know these type of things about people. But, how many more people are going to stay home now and not go anywhere because of people like this guy? And you have to wonder, did his parents know anything? Did his parents just let this go? Did they know he had that he was aggressive? Supposedly I read that his father was a boxer, and his father, I believe, has passed away. And what about the family dynamics made this happen? And this could happen anywhere. It happened in California, but as we know, it can happen anywhere, and it does. I mean, this morning, I don't know the ins and outs of it. There was a shooting inside of a Walmart in Mississippi where it looks like the guy may have been a disgruntled employee. There are in Alabama, Chicago, everywhere. Just different times where people are coming out and they're shooting people, and people talk about, well, we just need to get rid of guns, or we need to have less guns. That's not the problem. It's really not the problem. It's the heart. What is his name? Sharon, I know his name, but I don't want to say his name. I don't want him to have any type of notoriety. So if you look up his name, you'll find it. I just don't want to say it here. Alan said it'll probably be another year-long investigation like the Vegas thing. I read about the Walmart shooting, Robin said. And that's just the thing. We hear about these type of shootings. Vegas. What do we really know about what happened in Vegas? Do we really know everything about this guy? As long as there are people, things like this will happen, Bill said. And it's definitely a heart problem, Robin said. Brenda Liz said shalom. Hello, Brenda Liz. How are you? Because it's really a spiritual battle. There are no laws that can stop these people. We need to keep our families in prayer, as well as our neighbors, churches, and families. Abba wants us to care for one another, and we are too busy to care. And Vicki, you bring up a good point, because, when things like this start happening, and the Bible tells us in the end times that we're going to see more and more of things like this happen, chaos, people turning against one another. When is it going to come to a point where we have to spend more and more of our time in prayer, where we have to, as I was saying to on another show of mine, maybe in taking shifts, of 24 hours a day, really praying for the people in this country, for the protection of the president, for the protection of each other, because this is going to only get worse. And our biggest, strongest weapon is the full armor of God. It's not about going out and changing gun laws. It's not about avoiding places and events that we might go to. It is putting on the full armor of God and praying fervently, so that we stop the evil, or we at least slow down the evil that we know is coming. Anybody have any questions or any thoughts that you want to talk about in concerning Gilroy before we move on to the next subject? Because again, there's a lot of stuff. End of the age, good is evil, evil is good. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it seems like more and more of these shootings are done by younger and younger people. And that's pretty frightening, in my opinion. So you are on spot on. Prayer is the key, Robin said. And I think we're going to have to put aside some things like watching TV, going to movies, and taking turns and saying, for this hour, I will be more than happy to be in prayer. And I think if we did this across our country, honestly, we would be much better off. Sylvia said very few people want to commit to praying on a regular basis. And that's true. I mean, it is true. Lena said, hi, any good news today? I tend to bury my head in the sand because it's all so bad. Lena, there is good news out there, and it's hard to find these days. There is a man who, this morning I put up some good news, as a young black man. He worked really hard. He was from the School of Hard Knocks, basically, and he grew up and decided that he was going to he was inspired, and he became a doctor. He rose from nothing, being in poverty, and became a doctor. Such a success story. Bill said violence, unfortunately, is a characteristic of the days of Noah, and the Messiah said the days before his coming would be like those days. And Bill, is right. We're living in those days. Jim said, "What's a TV?" Jim, good for you that you're not doing TV. No, I wasn't talking about Mitch. Debbie said the gun is a tool; anything can be used as a weapon. And we see that in places like the UK, where they're not allowed to have guns, they use knives and vehicles instead. Sylvia said we can't bury our head; it's not going to go away all by. It's not, Sylvia. You're absolutely right. Jim said praying. Yeah. Let's see. Motown said 99% happen in gun-free zones. Police are uniformed targets. Research. And so, and the thing of it is, Motown, in this instance, the police were already there. It was a big event. They had a ton of police there. And that person was taken out in less than a minute because there were so many police there. But still, people died. Lena, I'd have to instant message me later or somehow, on Periscope, and I'll give you the man's name. I talked about it on my show this morning. So I'll find that for you if you need that. Okay. So I want to kind of move on to our next subject. We want to talk about what's happening with Baltimore and Elijah Cummings. Now, Elijah Cummings, just to kind of set the stage for you, he's a 13-term representative in Congress who lives in the district that everybody knows. It's no secret. I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic. Everybody who lives there knows that there are issues in Baltimore. The president, because he has been exposing all of the crime that we have, all of the problems that we have, the deep state that we have, he has, because Elijah Cummings attacked McAleenan, who is the acting DHS secretary, attacked him about the border and saying it's so horrible down there and screaming at him practically during a hearing. That's why President Trump went after Elijah Cummings. I think that's just pure and simple. But when he went after Elijah Cummings, we should set the record straight. It was not because Elijah Cummings was black. It was because Elijah Cummings is responsible. His district is Baltimore, and it is a rat-infested place to live. Sylvia said the Dems don't bury their heads; they keep pursuing. We can't either. Exactly. Thank you, Terry. Terry says, "Love you, Susan." Thank you, Terry, so much. Nothing to do with race, but corruption. Jim, total corruption. The thing that people need to understand is that because you speak about somebody that happens to be of a different race than you, doesn't mean that what you're saying amounts to racism. When you say that you're better than somebody else because of the race, now that's racism. And it goes both ways. If a person of color says something about a white person, it's racism. I'm sorry. I know that hasn't been the norm. That hasn't been PC to say that, but it's the truth. And we have to start speaking the truth. Elijah Cummings is going after Trump's finances too, Danielle said. Ben Carson was a surgeon in Baltimore for 30 years, said he's not a bad guy, whatever. Well, here's what Ben Carson also said. I've read that Ben Carson said, I lived in Baltimore, and he was a neurosurgeon, as everybody knows, and he had patients that came in. And he said one of the things that he really hated doing was sending these people, especially children, back to the streets of Baltimore because he knew how bad it was. Because why? Because he lived there. So Ben Carson, and Elijah Cummings, I don't know if he's a bad guy or not. Personally, I don't know Elijah Cummings, and it doesn't really matter whether he's a good person, bad person, or whatever. The fact of the matter is his district is horrible, and it's a fact. Last three mayors stepped down, all Democrats, Jim said. He should do that for Chicago, but the mayor is black and gay. He'll never hear the end of that, Sylvia said, speaking about what Donald Trump should do. Could there be any better evidence that term limits should be mandatory, no more than one term ever, House or senators? Rocky, I'm thinking that we've really got to do that. I mean, you really have to do something to put an end to this corruption where people come in and get rich and stay. And if you look at a lot of these congresspeople, they're rich. They stay there. Maxine Waters is a perfect example. She doesn't live in her own district, and it's a pigsty. Pigsty. Go to LA. Go look at her district. Trash all over the place. People sleeping on the streets. Rat infested. It's not just Baltimore. And that has nothing to do with Maxine being black. It has something to do with these are the facts. Lots of incompetent people are nice. That's right, Motown. What did Bernie say about Baltimore? They didn't say the same about Bernie. Exactly. It was okay for Bernie to say that Baltimore and the streets of Baltimore was an armpit. Now, let me tell you some of the things that came out last night when I was watching Sean Hannity. Robin said he's not helping his district, has nothing to do with racism. Trump was right about it. Education of the population is the only way, Motown said. Here's what they said after Elijah Cummings has been in Congress 23 years. 23 years in his district, and it looks this bad. Let me give you some facts. 13 Baltimore City high schools, 0 students are proficient in math. 6 Baltimore schools, no students are proficient in the state test. This is America. This should not be happening. Baltimore unemployment is the 3rd highest out of 36 major cities. This is according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Poverty rate is 22.1%. The median household is $11,000 less than the national average. It's the nation's most dangerous city, according to USA Today. I was given a grand tour of Paterson, New Jersey a few weeks ago. It looked exactly like Baltimore, Rocky said. That's horrible. In 2017, it had the highest murder rate over even Chicago. And Baltimore is shrinking because people are leaving. Garrett said, Waters and Cummings are not for the American people. They are pushing a Democratic anti-American agenda. They refuse to confront and stop the corruption that is going on in Congress. Yes. Motown said, promoting single motherhood. Thanks, Hollywood. Danielle said, and the rats are up 50%. Baltimore's homicide rate is 2 times that of Detroit and Chicago. Here I thought Chicago was the worst. I mean, how many people do we read about getting killed in Chicago each and every week? Let's see. The murder rate in Baltimore is higher than in Honduras, where people are fleeing from, hey, Rob, to come to the United States because they say that they need to leave Honduras because it's, they're being tortured there and it's uninhabitable. How can Cummings even hold his head up and receive his pay? I don't know. Good question. The murder rate has, 16% increase in murder rate, 28% in non-fatal shootings. The population has gone down by 300,000 in a couple of decades in Baltimore. The New York Times said the exit is the tragedy of Baltimore. We've also heard the former mayor Pugh, P-U-G-H. I think she's the former mayor. Or she may be the current mayor. I don't know. I can't keep up with them there. But she would on a video was going through the streets and saying, my God, you can smell the rats here. I mean, this isn't talking about something where it's racism. It's factual information. Now, what did President Trump say? In case you're not familiar with what he tweeted out. And Robin said, I thought Chicago was the worst. Exactly. And Jerry said she saw a tweet where a black person in Baltimore 2 years ago was asking for asylum. Now that's pretty horrible. And Lawrence, I can't remember Lawrence's last name, but Lawrence is on Hannity's show. And he went out into the streets of Baltimore and talked to people. They were all black people that he talked to. And he said, is there a problem in Baltimore? And they're like, are you kidding me? Every single one of them thought that Baltimore was horrible, that the Baltimore that they knew once years and years and years ago was no more. A young woman said, I'm afraid to bring a family up here. I need to leave Baltimore. These are the people who love Baltimore and want the Baltimore that they used to know. And thanks to Elijah Cummings, they don't have that. Vicky said taxes are increasing and nothing is improving. The last 3 mayors had to resign due to criminal activity. Time for new leadership in Baltimore, up to its voters, Rob said. Bill said, Beth and I took a youth group to Baltimore 25 years ago. They told us to not venture out of the Inner Harbor area. Point being, Baltimore has been this way for a long time and obviously has only gotten worse. Absolutely. Lawrence Johnson. I think it may be Lawrence. I don't know if Johnson is his last name, but yes, Lawrence is a great guy. He used to be on The Blaze and now he's on with Sean Hannity. He's a former, Lawrence Jones. Thank you. That's it, Jules. Lawrence Jones. Great guy. I think he used to be a former police officer. Sylvia said the people there should agree and say we need change, vote Trump. Rick said if stupidity was a race, then I'd be a racist. Living in filth is stupid. Lena said I live in the better part of New Jersey. Sue said I saw the video. It's sad. Danielle said Daniel Horowitz said he was afraid to drive through East Baltimore. Only the people can change that, Sylvia said. It's true. It's true. And, you know, it's sad to say, but obviously these people are voting Elijah Cummings in over and over again. It's like what they do with Maxine Waters. I don't understand it. It's very sad. But President Trump, here's what he said. Representative Elijah Cummings has been a brutal bully, shouting and screaming at the great men and women of the Border Patrol about conditions at the southern border, when actually his Baltimore district is far worse and more dangerous. And it's true. His district is considered the worst in the USA. As proven last week during a congressional tour, the border is clean, efficient, and well run, just very crowded. Cummings' district is a disgusting rat and rodent infested mess. He spent more time in Baltimore. If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up this very dangerous and filthy place. Remember that the people of Baltimore under Obama were given $1.8 billion with a B. That would be about $3,000 per household if you want to look at it. There's about 600, there used to be about, at least last year, I think 611,000 people in Baltimore. So what happened to that money? Where did it go? It's similar to what happens in California. They get the money, they vote for the money, and then they put the money over here rather than where it's supposed to go. And I guarantee you, probably something like that happened. Vicky said the Inner Harbor area is not safe in the daytime now. Wow. Lena said we had to go to a funeral in Patterson recently and couldn't wait to leave. So, you know, here's what Cummings said back originally to what President Obama said. Mr. President, I go home to my district daily. Each morning I wake up and I go and fight for my neighbors. Not sure what you're fighting for. And maybe, you know, if you're trying to do the same thing and expecting different results, maybe you should do a different fight or fight harder because it's not working. Now, some of the statistics that I did for myself, I went and looked some things up. Baltimore term for abandoned houses, Bando. Jerry said Baltimore got $16 million last year from Trump administration, and they're asking where did that go? Bill said, well, except for this week, my understanding is that he is in Italy. Well, he's going to Italy. That, don't get me started on that. The whole Black Caucus is going to Italy and Ghana on our dime. So just so you know, they're going there because it's the 400th anniversary of when slavery started there and they were sending slaves to America. I have no problem with them being there. What I have a problem with is that when you go out of the United States with Pelosi, the Black Caucus, and Ilhan Omar, because you want to not celebrate, but commemorate what happened, the horrific slavery that started there 400 years ago, I have no problem with you going. Pay for it out of your own pocket. When you're not directly helping the United States, I think your travel needs to be limited to where you go. You people in Congress. I could see Pompeo going, Bolton going, and other people higher up. But Congress, I know they're on the same level. I get it. But they're not looking at our national security. That's not their job. It's Pompeo's job and people like that. Secretary of Defense's job. So those people should going. Lena wants to know where Mr. Cloud is today. Mr. Cloud is in the clouds on Sean Shershin Ministries with Bill Cloud. Actually, You do pretty well on your own, but was just wondering. Brandon is out today, Lena, and we can't communicate 3,000 miles away without the equipment that Brandon has. So that's why I'm having to do it by myself. And Bill's commenting, can Trump stop them from using our money to pay for the trip? No. Now it's Congress. So Congress, has the ability to do whatever they want to. Now we can stop them. We can vote these people out, but we don't, so there lies a problem. Now, the statistics that I found looking at this myself, in a population of, like I said, 611,648, that's 100 in Baltimore is 153% higher. So their overall crime rate in Baltimore is 153% higher than the national average. Ghana is a crime-infested country full of scammers. Wells said. Bill said they are reps of the people here, not reps for the U.S. Bill is in the doghouse. Bill's in the doghouse and Church and Ministries over there. So if no student is proficient in math, it's hard to get people jobs. Anyone who can will leave. And Motown, the thing of it is that we know that Black unemployment is the lowest it's ever been, period. So a lot of those people in Baltimore are working, but what is it benefiting them? All their tax money is being taken out of their pockets and obviously not being used back for them. They should take a trip to all these different cities in America. Jackie, absolutely agree. But Susan is doing a great job. Thank you, Bill. I absolutely agree. If you want to spend our money doing something other than going out and campaigning to be president of the United States, which you're doing now, you're not really doing your job. You're out there on the campaign trail, and now you're out for 6 weeks when you don't deserve to be out for a week. From what I've seen, what work is being done. But go around to Detroit, go around to Baltimore, come to LA, go to San Francisco, Nancy, near your district where people are laying on the street, homeless people laying in their own feces and rat infested feces as well. Let's go to Nancy's house. No, Nancy's in Italy and then going to Ghana and is going to speak in Ghana. No, thank you. That's not what I want for my representative. I want them, I know this is going to sound racist, but I want them to put America first. Susan, Baltimore got $16 billion from Trump administration last year alone. Billions is what did they do with it? Yes. Love you, Susan. Great job. Thank you, Bethany. I'm going to lose my voice soon, but thank you. Now, Baltimore's violent crime rate, listen to this, 429% higher than the national average. The chances of becoming a victim of any crime in Baltimore is 1 in 15. Now, let's compare that to LA. We all know that the problems that LA is having. LA has 4 million people there. 4 million people in Los Angeles as compared to the 611,000 in Baltimore. Now, they have a better crime index in Los Angeles than they do in Baltimore. Baltimore's crime index makes the city safer than only 1% of U.S. cities, while LA's is 14% safer than the other cities. I mean, that's inexcusable. How are you not embarrassed? Seriously. And I like this too. Todd Starnes, he's a Christian. He's with Fox. He likes to come out and he likes to do his own research as well. And Rick says he hopes they stay in Ghana and just away. Yes. Well, that would be great, but don't look for that to happen. Todd Starnes came out and said after this, the CNN news anchor, Victor Blackwell, falsely said that the president was insinuating it's about Black and brown people. No, not once did he ever say that. Not once did he ever really mention the people. He mentioned Elijah Cummings' district. So if that's what you want to, put that on. Which city, Motown, I was talking about Los Angeles, was better than Baltimore as far as crime is concerned. So Todd Starnes, after hearing that, went out and decided that he was going to do his own. Corny Rios said, love hearing you guys. Thank you. Corney or Corny, I don't know which one it is, but Rios. Bill is commenting today, and you'll have to see the replay why Bill isn't here today. So the allegations, this is the allegation as Todd Starnes sees it, saying that Baltimore is considered the worst run city in America. He wanted to know, is that really true? And he said he started doing the research. He looked at a BBC article, and it said, if you want to know what poverty in America looks like, well, this is it. And he was describing Baltimore. So I guess the guy from the BBC reporter was a racist. Jackie said that the left will call the president a racist and not even deal with the actual problems regarding the rodents. Wanda said, how can putting America first sound racist? It's un-American to say otherwise. You preach it, sister. Miss you, Bill. Thank you, Wanda. Yeah, because the truth doesn't come in colors. The truth is the truth. You know what? The truth is colorblind. Nobody cares. The justice is blind. Okay. So one resident told the television network that despair is a way of living in the congressional district in Baltimore. The resident said the houses are rat infested, regardless of what you do as a person living there. Roaches, mice, and an epidemic of bed bugs. This is what the people are living with. And Bill made a good point. Notice Baltimore's proximity to DC. Absolutely. Absolutely. Baltimore City schools are among the lowest in the state of Maryland, according to the CBS television affiliate in Baltimore. And this is one of the things that I found too. When President Trump said it's a rat-infested city, is that true? According to Orkin to Pest Control, they put Baltimore at number 9 out of 10 top cities that are rodent infested. It's simple. 32%, 1/3 of Democrats say whites criticizing politicians of color are racist. That's right, Motown. That's a way to shut you down. Rick said, our town will fine for a trashy property. Don't take money to be clean. Yep, that's true. The other allegation, Baltimore is a filthy mess. And Todd Starnes wanted to find out, is that true? And he found out it's true. The Baltimore Sun editorial board in Baltimore, okay, called out the city's trashy reputation for having food containers, balled up clothes, paper, banana peels, plastic bags, ton of other pieces of litter line the shoulders of roads, on and on and on. Okay, that came from their own board in Baltimore. Is it a dangerous city? True. Baltimore is deadlier than Chicago and Detroit. Just exactly what I told you a little while ago. They had the highest homicide rate in the nation in 2018. Is Congress still looking for that raise? Hopefully not, Jackie, because I don't think when people hear all of this, they'll want to give them any type of raise. In fact, they'll want to take away their salary. So Todd Starnes agrees, absolutely what President Trump said was absolutely true. Has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with Elijah Cummings and the way he runs his district and the money that goes into that district. And as we've just talked about, there's been a lot of money that has gone into that district. What's it being used for? And are we going to look at it because, we can't because Elijah Cummings is black, so therefore we can't go and find out what they actually did with the money? You can hide behind that. Some of the things that I want to tell you, and I think this is really important, is that Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals is alive and well and being played out right before your eyes when it comes to Elijah Cummings and what's being said. And let me tell you, I picked out several, there are 12 rules for radicals. I picked out several to let you know how it's being played. Number 1, power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. So they're trying to use their power against, who they see as the enemy, which is the right. Number 2, make the enemy live up to its own book of rules. And I'm going to tell you in a minute how that was played out yesterday by Donna Brazile, who you might remember who she is, and I'll remind you in a moment. Number 3, ridicule is man's most potent weapon. A good tactic is one your people enjoy. We know that the left loves to attack, attack, attack. That's what they do. There doesn't have to be any truth to it. They just attack. This is all good news. The Dems need to keep all this up for the good of the nation. Mike said, absolutely. And keep the pressure on is another one of Alinsky's rules. The major premise for tactic is the development of operations that will maintain a constant pressure upon the opposition. We have seen a complete and constant pressure against this president from day one. 24 hours, 7 days a week, even before he got elected. And it's still ongoing. And the pressure, you notice when he said that, when the president made that statement about Elijah Cummings, we had CNN, MSNBC, Joe Scarborough, anybody and everybody that could come out talking against the president and how he's a racist. Another one, if you push a negative hard enough and deep enough, it will break through into its counterside. So if they keep calling the president racist, hopefully what they look at it as being is that somebody is going to actually believe he is a racist. And that's exactly what they want. And then the last one, pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. And that's exactly what they do. They call the president a racist. They call the right the racist. They freeze it. They personalize it. They tell you that this is harmful to the country, that they're coming after you. We're coming after them. We're white supremacists, blah, blah, blah. And it's all about the president. Oh, he's dividing the country. No, you're dividing the country. Your lies are dividing the country. The fact that you don't want anybody to speak about the truth is dividing the country. Paul says, listening from Morris, Illinois. Thank you for being here, Paul. Donna Brazil, MSNBC reporter who gave questions to Hillary in advance of her debate with Bernie. Yes, Motown. 2020 can't come soon enough, he said. And Mike said they're trying to make AOC look like one of the smart ones. Dems are going insane. Yeah. Now, here's what Donna Brazil did yesterday. And you can see what Donna Brazil is doing on some of the things that I read to you on Alinsky's rules. She told the host on America's Newsroom that while she finds the statistics reprehensible, so she's in agreement. I guess Donna's a racist because she's in agreement that the stats for Baltimore's district is horrible. So Donna is a racist. All right. Now she said, but even though I find it horrible there, and what you're saying about it is horrible, but true, the city is not, the representative, Elijah Cummings, he's not to blame for what's happening. No, not Elijah. Not the guy who's in charge of the district. Jackie said what's happening regarding Cummings' wife and their nonprofit group. What bothers me is the most is there's no accountability whatsoever. Yes, she's being some allegations against Cummings' wife. We're not talking about it. Bill said, I go back to something I said several times. Trump is to the left. What Jerusalem is to the nations, a cup of trembling. Absolutely. Absolutely. They can't face the truth because if they face the truth, they have to face what they're doing and who they really are. They don't want to be found out. And so President Trump keeps bringing it up. He keeps pointing out who they really are, and they don't like it at all. Now, she said, is it right to morally pin this on the person that is representing that city? Yes, that's what my answer is. But she goes on and says, or should we all take responsibility to make this country better for every living soul in this country? In other words, make the enemy live up to its own book of rules. That's what Donna is doing. She's saying, yeah, I know it's bad in Baltimore. It sucks in Baltimore. Everything you say is true. But let's not pin that on Elijah. And socialism, she didn't say that, but what she means, in socialism, we all are responsible. So it's that group think. You're not an individual. There's no such thing as an individual. You're all a group. And as a group, we're all responsible. It takes a village to raise children. It takes a village to run Baltimore, things like that. That's what she's saying. And it's that make the enemy live up to its own book of rules. Where President Trump wants to make America great, she's using that against him and saying, hey, instead of pointing out that it's Cummings, well, we're going to say to you, Donald Trump, you make America great. So make Baltimore. Why haven't you made Baltimore great? Why isn't it everybody's responsibility to make Baltimore great? Jackie said the term communicative activist also came from the rules of radicals. Obama was called that. Rick said truth becomes hate speech when the people you're talking to hate the truth. Yes. Bottom line is that the Elijah is unprofitable servant. Rocky said. And Marlene said, you mean communism instead of socialism? Yes. Then why elect any one leader? Well, Motown, they probably wouldn't want any leaders if they could get there, right? I mean, the final goal is a one world government. You'll have one leader. And that would, in their minds, I think today would be Obama if they could pick anyone. And Marlene said, I refuse to use socialism anymore. It's communism. And it's true. Marlene, you're right. It is communism. They're out there now saying they don't care now to say, yes, I'm a socialist. They haven't yet reached over and stepped over into that next threshold, which is admitting that they are communists. Bill said deflect responsibility from the one responsible and project it into somebody else, inferring it is their fault. The adult version of not me when asked by the parent who did this. And that's correct, Bill. And remember, under the Obama administration, we learned that you didn't build that. That took everybody. Everybody built that. And you don't have personal responsibility. It's always somebody else's fault. That's what we're seeing here. Nothing has changed for Donna and most of the people. Motown said John Lennon. Robin said they don't want anyone to take personal responsibility. I reject that with everything in me. Marlene said they want you to use socialism, communism. Word is too scary. That's right. Define projection. Jim, it's when you're doing something, you project it onto somebody else and say they're the problem, when it's you that has the issue. Now, here Donna goes on. When asked whether she thinks the American people deserve better, Brazil fired back saying, calling for the president to try to improve struggling U.S. cities instead of attacking their leaders. Don't you think the United States of America deserves better as well, with a president that will not lift up a finger to help those that are in poverty? We need to stop majoring in the minors and taking these tweets to our public discourse. It's harming our country. It's poisonous. Let me just tell you, if Donald Trump said today, I want to go in Baltimore, you move out of the way, I'll fix it, you and I both know exactly what would happen. They would say, absolutely not. Stay out of our city. We don't want you here. The same would happen in Los Angeles, Detroit, New York, and every place else. I think the president wanted to come into Chicago a long time ago and fix the gun issue and the gun crime. And nobody would allow him to do that there. Remember that? And so that's what we're looking at. Don't attack leaders unless they are Republican and name Trump, Bill said. Exactly. And that's what they're doing. Exactly. Marlene said, you're on fire today, girl. Thank you, Marlene. So this is what we have with Donna Brazile. Donna Brazile, the one to speak, the one who, the way she does things, she cheats. That's Donna Brazile. And it's okay, if you notice, it's okay for Donna Brazile to call out the president and to call out Elijah Cummings, because Donna Brazile is a woman of color. So, in other words, they use the Saul Alinsky tactics to shut you down. They don't want you to talk, but it's okay for them to talk. And we all know that one of the things that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to start standing up. We're going to have to start talking. We can't sit down. We can't shut up. And we can't let people like Donna Brazile or anyone else tell us that we can't talk about it. Majoring in the minors, code talking straight to the peons, Alan said. And she's a liar too. She is, Marlene, absolutely a liar. Why Fox hired her, we all know why they hired her. They want fair and balanced, right? You could have picked somebody else, a better representative of Fox News. Dems are projecting their crimes onto others. Yes, Jim. So Bill said, preach. What we need to do is that we need to speak the truth. Do not allow people to shut you down. You have a right to speak. That's right. Don't be silent, Sue said, yes. Sorry, I'm going to have to get some water. There are the children of the lawless one. Yes, Jackie. And so, for the longest time, for 8 years, we sat there and we were quiet because under Obama, we weren't allowed to say anything. People, oh, no, we can't do that. We can't say anything about people of color. Let's just talk about content of character, and let's just talk about the truth. That has nothing to do with race. Like I said, when you think your race is better than somebody else, then that's racism. When you're talking about a person who happens to be of a different race than you, that's not racism. You're speaking the truth. Rick said, guess you're doing God's work. Thank you, Rick. Democrats have a reverse mortgage mentality. They want to take and take and take. Yes. Children of the Corn, Jim said, where we are now is because Christians are passive and quiet. Marlene, sad but true. And one of the things that I want to talk about is just kind of what you're saying. And I'm going to go on to that. I was going to talk a little bit about Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton's out. You know what Al Sharpton's main job is. Al Sharpton is to come in and race bait. So we know why Al is here. Al, who knew and has known President Trump for 25 years. President Trump has said, this guy has known me for 25 years. I've gone to events with him. You can see pictures with Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and Donald Trump all together. There was nothing racist about it. Brian said, Dems don't care about our inner cities. You only see them every 2 years when it's to get votes. Brian, absolutely. Trump was right about Baltimore. Yes, Brian, absolutely he was. So again, with Al Sharpton, it's race baiting. And somebody said something yesterday that I didn't know. If Donald Trump is such a racist, I think he dated, and I had a picture of that for today. He dated a black woman for 2 years. Either Donald Trump is a racist and he didn't know that the woman was black. Maybe that's it. Donald Trump is also trying to help ASAP in Sweden get out of jail over there. Maybe Donald Trump doesn't know that ASAP is black. Maybe that's it. Donald Trump just signed prison reform. He worked with Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. Now, maybe he didn't know Kanye West was black. Maybe he didn't know a lot of people in prison were black. Maybe he doesn't know that a lot of people who came there on the day to sign prison reform, all the black people that showed up, maybe he didn't know they were black. Donald Trump can be called a lot of things, I'm sure, by a lot of people that have known him personally and have some beef about him, just like they do everybody else. But I think the one thing that you can't do with a straight face is call Donald Trump a racist. You have absolutely no proof of it. And you've got pictures that say the opposite. You have actions by this man that every day say the opposite. Black unemployment. If he hated black people so much, why bother? Leave them in the poverty. He chose not to do that. Obama, he didn't do that. Obama didn't do that. We ran into Sharpton in Jerusalem years ago. He couldn't wait to get out of Jerusalem, Jewish Jerusalem, because he had a hot date with Yasser Arafat, Bill said. Al Sharpton's good for one thing. He's a race baiter, period. That's it. He's looking for money now, and he figures I can get back in on the conversation because it's about race. We got this race thing going with the Saul Alinsky rules, and I'm going to be there to race bait. And why do they call Al and Jackson Reverend? There's no way they and there should have that title. Sue said, I have no idea. I don't know if they've ever been to school for becoming a reverend or not. I have no idea. You're fired up today, Alan said. I am fired up, Alan. I'm tired of the injustice, and I'm tired of the 8 years under Obama of people being afraid to speak. I'm tired of people being put down because of the color of their skin. And that goes for white people, black people, Asian, Latino, whatever. And I'm tired of people trying to make it look like that Americans are these, racist people when we're not. I'm tired of it. And I hope you're tired of it too. So that gets me fired up. But I want to move on and talk about another subject because, Al Sharpton is not worth much my time. I want to talk a little bit about Ilhan Omar. Now, Ilhan Omar is, she's one of those people where we give her a pass because she's a woman of color. And I know it's true. You know it's true. Yesterday, she came out and did something that was pretty despicable. Tom Arnold, who we know hates this president, who thought he was going to be able to use Michael Cohen, the former attorney for the president, thought he was going to be able to use Cohen to get something on President Trump. Okay, so yesterday, Tom Arnold, I think this was an old tweet of his, but I'm not sure. There was a tweet from Tom Arnold that said, "Imagine being Rand Paul's next door neighbor and having to deal with Rand Paul lying, cowardly, circular, whiny bullcrap about lawn clippings. No wonder he ripped his toupee off." Now, as we all know, Rand Paul had broken ribs from what his neighbor did. Yeah, it was an old tweet. And basically what happened was Ilhan Omar was listening to Rand Paul and saw this tweet. And let me tell you a little bit what Rand Paul was saying in his video. And we were going to run that today, and I had the video for you. You might look for it if you want to see it. He said, "You know what? We have a lot of refugees in my hometown in Kentucky. And they're thankful people. And they're some of the best Americans because they appreciate how great our country is. And they don't talk like Ilhan Omar, Representative Ilhan Omar, who says America is a terrible place." He said, if America is such a terrible place, when she came here, why did we feed her? We clothed her. We gave her welfare. We sent her to school. We gave her health care. And she had the honor of winning a seat as a Congress member. So if America is so bad, why did we do all of those things for her? And then he said, I'm willing to contribute to her to buy a ticket back to Somalia so she can see that there's no capitalism there. There's no constitution with God-given rights that are given to the people of Somalia, and that there are several tribes that have been fighting there for years. She came here when she was 12. So maybe she needs to, he's saying maybe she needs to go back and see how horrible Somalia is as compared to the United States. So Omar saw that, heard about it, and what does she do? She retweets Tom Arnold's old tweet. Did anybody say anything about it? Did you hear mainstream media talking about how horrible that was? If that had been somebody on the right, we'd still be talking about it today. But she gets a pass. Nancy has said before, well, she talks about things differently than we do. So she gets a pass. She is a representative in Congress. She should not be getting a pass today, tomorrow, or ever again. But we'll never hear anything about this. Robin said Omar wouldn't have a voice there. She knows that. Absolutely, Robin. And Bethany said, if America is so bad, why didn't she flee to Guatemala as soon as she came of age? Exactly. And we remember only like a week or so ago that there was a reporter, a female reporter, who wanted to go to Somalia and prove that what Omar was saying was right, that she was correct, that Somalia was shouldn't be looked at as a bad place. What happened? She got killed in Somalia by a terrorist. That should be enough. Oh, Ilhan Omar, you're off on vacation. You got 6 weeks off. Instead of going to Ghana, why don't you go to Somalia? Why don't you go there? And you're using the American public's taxpayer money anyway. Why don't you go there, and maybe the taxpayers will pay for you to go there? And you can compare Somalia to America. Just saying. Judy said, keep talking, don't back down. Absolutely. Okay, now I'm going to be just a little bit long. Please bear with me. I think these next two topics are extremely important of where we are today. The first ones I was talking about, they're very important. This is extremely important for all believers, for all of you who are thinking about being believers. This is so important. There's a man, Joshua Harris, that used to be a pastor, who I think stepped down from being a pastor about 2 years ago. In 1997, he wrote a book called I Kissed Dating Goodbye. He basically was responsible in part for the purity movement, staying pure until you're married. I think is a great concept, something that is foreign today. I get it, but it's a great concept. Now, I think last week, all of a sudden, he's getting a divorce, and he came out and he said that basically he is no longer a Christian. He said the information that was left out of an announcement is that I have undergone a massive shift in regard to my faith in Jesus. By all the measurements that I have for defining a Christian, I am not a Christian. I don't know what sadder words that this breaks my heart that I'm reading these words. It breaks my heart that a Christian would turn from God, that somebody who claims that he's a Christian would turn from God. He's a former pastor of Covenant Life Church in Gaithersburg, Maryland. He apologized. He said, my self-righteousness, my fear-based approach to life, the teachings of my books, my views of women in the church, and my approach to parenting, to name a few, is what he is apologizing for. So in other words, he is apologizing for the principles of the Bible and of God. Is everything that is in the Bible, he essentially here is apologizing for. And he said, but there's one group he specifically wanted to add, and that is he wants to apologize to the LGBTQ plus community. I want to say that I'm sorry for the views that I taught in my books and as a pastor regarding sexuality. I regret standing against marriage equality, for not affirming you and your place in the church, and for any ways that my writing and speaking contributed to a culture of exclusion and bigotry. I hope you can forgive me. I think what he should be hoping for is that God can forgive him. He needs to repent and turn back to God. Bill said, wouldn't be surprised if he comes out with another announcement. The danger is that people he may cause to fall because of his waffling. And I'll tell you what I think you're thinking, Bill, and this is exactly what I'm thinking. I think that he's going to come out and tell people soon that he's gay. Just my opinion. Don't know if that's true, but that's my feeling about that. And that wouldn't surprise me one bit if he said that. Wow, who held a gun to his head? I know, Bethany, scary. So sad. We are seeing the great falling away right before our eyes. Judy says he's apostate. Cheryl said, no wonder he's getting a divorce. Jim is a double-minded man, is unstable in all his ways. It's absolutely scary that this man would be leading people away from Christ. And what does the Bible talk about? The pastors, they have a duty. Bethany said, yeah, he's so deceived. They have a higher standard. I don't know if he will be excused by the fact that he was a pastor at one time and he stepped down. In my mind, he's still a pastor. If he was once a pastor and he hasn't denounced that, maybe he has as a Christian. But when you lead people astray like that, the Bible talks about leading people astray as a pastor. Not good. Wouldn't want to be in the same line as he is on Judgment Day. So anyway, I think it's tragic. I hope that people will pray for him, that he will repent and turn back to God and the principles of the Bible. Scary, scary thing. Cheryl says 1 Timothy 4, verse 1. Yes. Now, and a lot of people, it was astonishing in a way that to read that some people they weren't worried about his salvation in the comments. They were saying, gosh, I know it's probably hard. I appreciate what you did. And so glad that you came out and said that. Well, yeah, I don't know how glad God is, again, that he would come out and say that and that those people would be in agreement with that. Shalom, end of time scenario is going on. Separation of the sheep and goats in the making. God will never come down to our standard. His sovereignty rules. John Gonzalez says. Yes. And Danielle said it's sad. Probably cheating on wife with a gay man. Wayne said could possibly be. That's all, of course, opinion, not fact. But you have to wonder. Now, here's another topic that came up today that I saw that in my mind is really, really something that Christians need to wake up to and hear this. There's a group formed by Christian leaders, or so they say they're Christians, that is warning against the rise of Christian nationalism. Now, where have we heard that? It's sad, but he will come around, Mike said. Well, we hope so, Mike. Where have we heard that about nationalism? We've heard that almost every day when they're talking about President Trump. And now we're hearing it involving Christianity. So if you talk about Christian nationalism, that is a way of putting Christians, in my opinion, putting Christians in with white supremacists and talking about nationalists and talking about racism. So let me go on. Saying the merging of Christian and American identities poses a threat to U.S. democracy and religious communities. This group called Christians Against Christian Nationalism said, as Christians, we are bound to Christ, not by citizenship, but by faith. Whether we worship at a church, mosque, synagogue, or temple, America has no second-class faiths. All are equal under the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution was founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and the Constitution basically arrived and was created by the principles of the Bible, Christian Bible. And Jim said he's an American Messianic nationalist. Okay. The statement was endorsed by at least 17 Christian leaders from various churches and organizations. The leaders are saying Christian nationalism seeks to bind Christianity and American citizenship in a way that provides cover for white supremacy and racial subjugation. Now remember, Hillary before said, you Christians, you evangelicals, you need to step back. You need to stop doing what you're doing. So, here we go again. And this is what we're seeing now, calling it Christian nationalism. Christian nationalism demands Christianity be privileged by the state and implies that to be a good American, one must be Christian, the group said. Amen, Bible, not Quran, Mike said. The group's credo includes a list of beliefs centered around the Constitution's religious equality and calls on Christians to reject the damaging political ideology. In other words, Christians, it's okay if you want to become Muslim. Christians, it's okay if you embrace Buddhism or any other religion or culture. That's what this group is saying. And Christians, if you don't, we're going to look upon you as being Christian nationalism, and or nationalists is who you would be, and which means that you are racist, you're homophobic, you're Islamophobic, you're any other type of phobia there might be. Christian nationalism could possibly be parallel to Zionism, Kathy said. The language they use is deceitful, contains truth, but mingled with socialist secular views, Bill said. The age-old tactic of the adversary is to blend truth with falsehoods. This is hallmark of Laodicea. Yes. And Daniel's saying nope. Ellen is saying idiots. And among the group endorsing it is the Reverend Michael B. Curry, the bishop who presided over the wedding of Prince Harry. Okay, so that might tell you something. And he goes on to say the violence, intimidation, and distortion of scripture associated with Christian nationalism does not reflect the person and teachings of Jesus Christ. And it's like Bill said, they take a little bit of truth, they combine it with something else, and it's a way to, once again, let's silence Christians. This is evil. They are trying to shut us up and dominate us. Jim said, that is just Sharia law talking over by the squad. Harrison said, if you're not praying to God Almighty, the creator of all, then you're praying to the devil, is what Rick said. So again, I think this is a way to once again shut down Christians, to tell Christians that you are racist, you're homophobic, you're prejudiced. In other words, that you need to be. We are in a spiritual war, Jim. Jim said we are in a spiritual war. They're telling you that you need to stop being the Christians who follow the principles of the Bible, and you are to embrace everyone else and every other religion, and that's what you should do. And it's going to go to that limit. You can see it coming. It's very clear. And you have, once again, pastors who keep, like Joshua Harris, who keep falling away, as the Bible said they would in the end time. So Christians, please pray. Please pray for this country. Please pray for the Christians that we have, that they will become even stronger in their beliefs, that the pastors that we have will preach the entire Bible and will not fall away and will not be deceived. We are seeing deception growing. But the good news is, if you want the good news, and everybody does, God is still in control. God remains sovereign, and we need to continue to focus on God each and every day, and more than once a day, if we want to be truthful about it. And we need to pray that God will destroy the enemy and destroy the enemy of those that inflict our souls, because we are his servants, as it says in Psalm 143 in the last verse. Well, guess I'd like to see the scriptures throughout the whole Bible that substantiates your opinion, Linda said. Yeah, Linda, and that's the one thing that you're never going to see. And if you were to use the Bible as an example, then you, Linda, you would be a Christian nationalist. You would be proving his point, because if you bring up the Bible and you disregard anybody else's, whatever they read, then it's going to be, see there, you've made my point, you're Christian nationalist. We know that we're not. The darker it gets, the brighter the light shines. Absolutely, Bill. Absolutely. And I want to say, Marlene said, we are in a civil war too. Have no doubt Islam is sharpening their swords, want to lop our heads off, as Marlene said. So I want to end there. I want to say thank you so much for today, coming out and supporting us. We will be back next week, and Bill will be on with me next week. And again, hoping that Alan will learn how to do this. So if Brandon is out of town, that it will be done. If not, if anybody knows of anybody that has equipment that they can donate to me in California, so that I can always have us up and going, even if Alan and Brandon aren't there, I'd be more than happy to hook that together, get that up so this never happens again. Because I know that as we grow in this end times, as we go farther and farther, it's so important for all of us to come together and have these discussions. Bethany said they are more and mightier than we, their fear of us and causing their desire to eliminate us. Bill said Susan did a great job today carrying the program solo. My apologies for not being on today. Thought we had Brandon's absence covered, but it didn't work out. I dropped the ball. Sorry, everyone. Don't even worry about it, Bill. Thank you, Susan. Cheryl said. Thank you, everyone. He'll be there. Great job, Susan. Thank you, Bethany. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. God bless you. God loves you. See you next week.